Okay, this is Heish. You might know me from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
This is Muse Watson. You know, the guy behind you, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. You need to listen.
You are listening to
Don't Go Out There.
Don't Go Out There horror podcast.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all the support. Before we jump into tonight's film review, I just want to knock out some of our business out of the way. A quick shout out to our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. We're starting to upload our shows there as well. Just search for Don't Go Out There on those platforms and you'll find us. And I'm going to give a quick shout out to our website where you can find all of our social medias as well.
Guys, Nico has said that this podcast will be free and will always be free, and that will continue to be the case. We do, however, get people all the time ask us, how can you help us out? The biggest way that you can help us out is to support our sponsor, Loot Crate. Every time anybody signs up with our code BF15, that's B as in brothers, F as in frog, 15, then we get a little piece of everything that is purchased, and that helps us basically keep the lights on. So any of the crates, anything that you buy from there, there's the Fright crate, there's the Pop Culture crate, there's a ton of them. And, I'm actually a subscriber myself and love it. Love everything that we get. So again, lootcrate.com. Put in the code BF15, B as in brothers, F as in Frank, 15, and that will get you 15% off and help us out a little bit. So, again, thank you guys for everything.
Don'tGoOutThere.com. You have our interviews, our episodes, our store, our blog, everything that you need to know about this podcast is on there. And Brian, you want to say something about the website as well, didn't you?
Actually, I just kind of wanted to give a shout out. This week we got an email from a fan, Marnie McLean, who is actually a listener from Scotland. So, I just wanted to give her a shout out. And look, you guys, I think we're pretty good at responding to anybody and everybody that shoots us an email or even a DM or whatever on Twitter or Instagram or even Facebook. So, don't feel free. I mean, touch base with us. We love to hear from you guys. Especially it's awesome to hear. I know we have a lot of UK listeners. I didn't know how many we had in Scotland. So anyway, shout out to Marnie.
Oh, absolutely. And like Brian said, communicate with us, chat with us. We like it. We always appreciate feedback or comments. We love it. Tonight's film review is Brother Brian's pick. I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is a film that Brian, from the very get-go, wanted to pick, but he kind of waited on it. Brian, what's your general overview on this one, man? I'll let you go first.
Well, okay, so first of all, I think I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of gets a bad rap. People think of it as a quote-unquote, Scream knockoff, and as Ryan Hollinger put it, another quote-unquote cog in the whole 90s slasher movie wheel. Obviously, I don't agree with that. I can see how some people would, but, not a lot of people are aware that this was actually written by Kevin Williamson before he wrote Scream. And, then he was able to really sell the script once the success of Scream, really justified that. This has a huge nostalgic pull for me. I'm aware. I'm clearly aware that this thing has some flaws, but, I don't think it's your typical slasher. I think it tells a really good story. I personally love this movie and always have. Especially that whole mystery aspect to it that not a lot of slashers really have. And I think it really has actually a good story, in my opinion. and I think one of the three best slashers, in my opinion, to come out of the '90s. I think Wes Craven's New Nightmare and Scream are the other two, just in my opinion. I didn't catch this one in theaters. I saw it when I was really started picking back up horror movies my freshman year in high school, which was '98, a year after this had come out. I did see the sequel in the theaters, but we'll get to that because I'm definitely picking that one down the road too. Love the cast. I've said it before on here, and I'll say it again. I had three women I had posters of on my wall, and one of them was Sarah Michelle Gellar, all through high school and middle school. I actually really love the cast here. I'll say it now. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar steals the show, but that may be my bias talking. I don't know, but we know Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze, really ended up getting married. Lucky bastard. But I've heard him talk, but I've heard him talk before. I'll kind of bring up some stuff he said for the sequel, but he's talked before on his podcast, The Prince and the Wolf, that I listened to about how close that these four still are, especially Ryan, Felipe, and Sarah and Freddie, who we know Sarah and Ryan would go on to make Cruel Intentions that went into production pretty close to right when this thing was being released. But I think the closeness shows here. And here's a shameless plug to finish my little intro out. If you haven't listened to our interview with Muse Watson, the killer, Ben Willis in this film, go check it out wherever you're listening to this right now on whatever platform or, don'tgoother.com.
Absolutely. All right, I'll go next. Got to be honest, before we picked this movie and rewatched it, I probably had a better opinion of it. After a couple rewatches, I hate to say it, but I still like the movie. I think it's enjoyable, but I had a lot of problems with it. I liked the cast, but I didn't think they were very good actors and actresses in it, to be honest. Thought they were pretty awful.
Oh, wow.
I thought the acting was pretty awful, to be honest.
It's
still a fun movie,
point,
but
so that's completely opposite.
I still think it's an enjoyable movie. I don't hate it by any means. I thought it had a little bit of Kevin Williamson's too many jump scares in it. A couple of them were pretty damn ridiculous. I didn't know a jacket hanging on the coat hanger would be terrifying. But like I said, I like the cast. I just don't think they were that great here. They were better in future. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar, like he said, she was much better in my opinion in Scream 2 and The Grudge. I liked her in that a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's still a fun movie. I don't hate it by any means. I just don't. It wasn't as great to me this time as it used to be, I guess I could say. Mike, you want to go next?
Sure. So this movie is straight out of the '90s, from the fashion to the dialogue to the music to everything else. So I like that about this movie. And there's some other stuff I like, which I'm going to get into. I'm kind of like you, Nico, not as harsh. I think I enjoy it more than you. But I liked it more than I did upon these last couple rewatches we did prepping for this show. I don't know if it was just the mood I got in or if I decided to nitpick it to death. It's still fun. It still can be an enjoyable watch. I disagree with you, though, Nico. I think the acting is fine, especially for people who didn't have a lot of starring roles at that time. Freddie Prinze's first starring role. I don't really know how much Sarah Michelle Gellar and Love Hewitt had done up to that point. I should have looked into that. That's my fault. But I thought they were fine here. I think the nucleus is strong. They seem like genuine friends. I like that part about it. But there is a lot of plot points that bug me. I think the plot gets convoluted. I think that the killer is great. We interviewed Muse Watson. I think all that's fine. I just think our point in getting there takes a little long. There's some fat that could have been cut. I love, we get cameo by Leonard from Big Bang Theory. I know his real name, Jonathan Galecki. I'm just saying, it's fun to be like, oh yeah, that guy. It's kind of like in the sequel, where like, oh yeah, Jack Black's in this movie, which is a significantly worse film than this one. So I enjoyed the movie. I think it has a lot of flaws though. Whereas I love Scream, I don't love this movie, but I do want to clear something up before Dustin goes. This movie is nothing like Scream. There's not that much meta. There's a couple of references to stuff, but I wouldn't say it's not slapping me all over the face like I like to have my meta do. And I do think that had it been a little more meta, I probably would have enjoyed it more, to be honest. This plays it straight, and that kind of makes some of the jump scares that Nico mentioned very goofy, very and I think the characters make some really boneheaded decisions. Now I can kind of understand Brian's point of view where nostalgia kicks in, especially again. I think a lot of times Brian's love of '90s slashers comes from the soundtracks. The soundtrack is kind of great, to be honest. I think it's awesome, but the music is also up my alley. So, shot about this movie is shot about 4 hours away from my current location, so that's kind of cool. I'll have to go visit Southport, North Carolina, and check that out. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so this movie is another one of those. Nico, I agree with you. I had a more fond memory of this movie than I did after this rewatch. I hadn't watched it in years, and I mean years before this. I don't think it's a bad movie by no means, but it definitely, I don't hold it in as high regard now. It's funny you mentioned the coat on the coat rack being scary, because that's one of the things I actually praised the Babadook for. I remember mentioning that in that movie. It can work when it works, and it doesn't when it doesn't. And so I think we're on the same page with that. Jump scares, big nitpick of mine as well. Especially the one at the end of the movie that is completely disregarded in the sequel, but it's neither here nor there. Cast is great. I think the acting is great. It's a pretty good movie. It's not my favorite movie that features Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar. That, of course, is Scooby-Doo from 2002. Sorry,
Absolutely,
it's been a while since
brother.
I've mentioned Scooby-Doo on this show.
Absolutely, though, brother.
Yeah, it's it's an enjoyable movie. I don't think it's a great movie. There's definitely some things that irritate me. I appreciate how inspirational it was for scary movie franchise. We definitely had several scenes from this or bits from this movie that were spoofed in it. We also got Jennifer Love Hewitt, reprising her infamous scream in Boy Meets World a little bit later after this. The one of the best episodes. Yes, yes.
Jennifer Love
so yeah, it's a good movie. I'm glad you picked it. It is a little bit overdue. When you look back at some of the movies we picked, it's kind of like, oh wow, we haven't picked this yet, but we reviewed Bones for God's sake. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad you picked it. I'm looking forward to going through this.
Real quick. Go ahead, Brian.
All I was going to say is that, look, if somebody's chasing me and trying to kill me with a raincoat, and I see a raincoat when I turn around, I'm going to be scared of it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that. I'm just saying that it will scare me.
Dustin, I don't want to spoil anything, but do you have your 36 Degrees of David Arquette for this episode?
Sarah Michelle Gellar was in Scream 2.
Okay, that's an easy one. Here's a harder one. Freddie Prinze Jr. leading role in this movie was a writer for World Wrestling Entertainment up until 2011. World Wrestling Entertainment owns World Championship Wrestling, which David Arquette was the former champion of. You're welcome.
Yep. That is correct.
Speaking of, he on that Freddie and that Prince and the Wolf podcast, he does talk a lot about his time on when he was writing for the WWE. So it's worth a listen if you go back and listen.
Thank you for making Jeff Hardy champion. Love that.
Y'all got any more opening thoughts before we jump into scene by scene? And before we jump into, I'm just going to piggyback right off Brian, because I don't think I mentioned it. Muse Watson interview, it's awesome. I highly recommend you go listen to it, not just because it's our show, but he was just a great interview. He was awesome. I love his accent. I hope he's catching them fish up in Kentucky. I'm jealous. All right, let's jump into it. Film starts with title card and aerial shots of the ocean with opening credits. And fun fact, I guess, I'm sure somebody will bring this up. That's the same shot from The Birds, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep, I got that too.
Okay. We see a man sitting on a rock on the edge of the cliff over the water. He looks around as he hears noises. He grips tightly this locket as he looks at it, and he takes another drink from the bottle. Now we see fireworks in town. It's the 4th of July festival. Now we're at the Croaker Queen pageant, and a big crowd watches on. We meet our stars of the movie, Barry, Julie, and Ray, as they cheer on their friend Helen, who is in the pageant. She wants to serve her country through her art as an actress. Barry cheers on his girlfriend as Helen, who wins the Croaker Queen. The four are at a big party now, listening to live music and celebrating Helen's win, who really cares about her hair. Helen's sister Elsa is real bitchy to her before she leaves, and then Max offers to buy Julie a drink, but Barry breaks in front with a celebratory shot and pushes him away. Ray shows up and breaks up the fight. Helen suggests they go down to Dawson's Beach. They drive down and start telling stories on killers with a hook for a hand. Ray believes it's all true and no one else does. Helen and Barry lay on the beach and she tells him of their future's possibility. Like their life plan and all that. Ray and Julie sneak off and she asks if he really believes all those stories. And I wrote, their future talk doesn't seem as exciting as Barry and Helen's. They start to make coitus. Yes, I said coitus because Sheldon from Big Bang Theory always says it, and Leonard is in this movie. Back at Barry's car, he says no one drives but me, but Ray drives the car because Barry's way too drunk. Barry stands up through the moonroof and wiles out. He drops the liquor bottle on Ray and getting liquor all over him, distracting him, and Barry yells, "Watch out." They run into something. They think it's an animal. Barry has blood on his face, but it's not his own blood. They leave the car and look. Barry freaks out about the car's damage, and Julie finds a boot in the road. They refuse to believe it. Barry grabs a flashlight, and they look, and Julie screams when she sees a body. Barry commands Ray check the person's pulse. He sees his bloody face and checks the pulse. I think he's dead. They can't tell who he is. Barry says if we call the police, we're fucked. Julie says it's an accident and they'll never believe Ray was driving since the car is in Barry's name, and it could be manslaughter. Barry says we leave now. Barry says let's dump the body. Ray says the undertow and current would carry him out to sea. Ray says he has no family or money to get him out of this. Then they see headlights approach. They grab the body and dump it over the side rail. Julie tells Max they stop because Barry is throwing up. Max says his dad's going to be mad because of the car's damage. Max tells Ray he's almost got that rich boy act down and drives off. After he's gone, they load the body into the trunk. They drive down to a dock and carry him down to the water's edge. They lay him on the dock, and Julie asks if they should check his wallet to see who he is. And I think it's Ray. Ray says he doesn't think he can help, and then Helen goes to push him in, but he's still alive. He snatches Helen's crown as he sinks to the bottom. Barry dives in and grabs the crown, and we see the man open his eyes. Barry emerges with the crown, and they stomp away. Barry says we never speak on this again. He yells and they make a pact. It'll be okay, Ray tells Julie. We see a familiar-looking pendant lying on the dock as they drive away. All right, Brian, that's the opening scenes, man. What'd you think?
First of all, Mike's absolutely correct. I had this soundtrack as well. Love the opening and this version of Summer Breeze by Typo Negative. It's amazing. And I'm glad Nico brought that shot up because on my review, The Birds, I distinctly remember talking about that shot. I think it's a beautiful opening shot. Takes us over to Bodega Bay, where both of those films were shot scenes. I love the atmosphere that sets up right off the bat. And, this little small fishing village town, I think such a great location. I think it plays very well for this movie. Bridget Wilson, another one I had a huge crush on in the 90s, from Billy Madison to Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat. And while it's not the greatest film, I'm going to be picking House on Haunted Hill eventually. But it was nice to see her again, as always. A little fun fact from IMDb, Dawson's Beach, that crew, the whole crew goes to here. Little nod to Dawson's Creek, which Kevin Williamson was a writer on. And speaking of that, the Hook guy, urban legend thing, a little peek behind the curtain with me. And I'm curious about y'all, because we're all varying ages, that's the very first urban legend scary story type thing that I ever heard at a friend's house, spending the night. I think it was like in third grade. And it was actually told to me. It was told like 5 or 6 different ways here, but the way I heard it was the way that I keep calling him Freddie, Ray explains it. Is that something you guys ever heard when you were little at all? No, just me?
No.
Oh,
Not that I remember anyway.
First legend I always heard was the Pop Rocks and Coke.
Oh, okay. I get
The
that.
Pop Lock and Drop It.
No, the Pop Rocks and Coke.
Huey's in this movie? Oh, sorry. Toot that thing.
Anyway, I definitely am on the opposite end of Nico with this, but the acting I think is phenomenal. I think especially Felipe whenever they start freaking out about the body, but even before that, you really feel, to me, the bond between this group, the chemistry with the actors. and that's something Muse Williams touched on in our interview. I know, but you can also just kind of really see that on screen. Kind of going back to when they hit Ben. If he hit the front of the car and clearly went over Barry's head, wouldn't he be behind the car, not 30 yards up? I don't know. Just something that I kind of noticed. I also love how they kind of give you that little bit of a Galecki's, Max driving by, just that little red herring for you to remember later. To me, the red herrings, I feel like they do a really good job with in this. Something I think Williams did better than the Scream movies, honestly, or at least definitely the sequels for sure. Lastly, I don't think, I love this movie, but the script kind of doctor in me, if you want to say that, I would have made a lot of changes. And to me, I think that this definitely at the end of this group of scenes, I don't think they should have had him wake up. I mean, it made for a jump scare, which made for like, a few seconds of effect. But to me, it doesn't make any sense that they would just dump him at that point and assume that he's just going to drown. Just the logistics of that doesn't work for me. They should have just dumped him and assumed he was dead, and maybe we find out later he's not. It doesn't make sense that they would go from like accidental manslaughter to making the choice to kill a dude that they just saw was alive. And I feel like that was a plot point that maybe was added later. I don't know, but I don't know that to be true. But just the way that they even acted after, I don't know. That's just a change I would have made anyway. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a big fan of this Summer Breeze cover. I think it's great. I love that song in general, and I think this cover is really unique and different. I think it's awesome. Um, as far as that opening shot, I like it for how good it looks, but I don't know if I like it in the movie. I'm not 100% sure it does anything. As far as moves the movie along, it's very. I like this set of characters. I think, like you, Brian. I think I'm not going to go as far and say it's phenomenal, but I think the acting is passable, especially for '90s slashers. When you watch the acting that's in, let's say, Halloween 6, compared to this movie, it's completely different. So again, it's a much better cast of characters for one thing. Now, are these likable characters? Not really, except for maybe Jennifer Love Hewitt's character. Um, I just don't like super duper machismo drunk guy, and that's what we get from Ryan Phillippe. I'm just gonna call them by their real names because they're on the tip of my tongue. Uh, you know, this is kind of a really weird role for Freddie Prinze to me, and I know you have She's All That, which I think he's good in, and I think Scooby Doo like Dustin I think is great, especially Sarah Michelle Gellar and him together. But I this whole setup to me is a really good idea. I like the vibe of the town. I like you know I like this the music. Like everything's been good. And even the stuff on the beach is good because me and my friends used to do that, not with the beach, but with out on the lake. We used to do that kind of similar stuff. But the dialogue and that's weird for me to say for a Kevin Williamson script. The dialogue is a little rough. It's not my favorite. The way that the two couples talk to each other is not how people talk to each other. Sorry, at least not to me. It's just very, very like, wait, what? Like when Jennifer Love Hewitt saying you're gonna fall in love with some shaved head goth chick or whatever, that line is. I don't know. It's just weird. It doesn't fit even in the not I get it, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like Freddie Prince's character Ray is that kind of character that would fall for someone of that stereotype. So again, just a really weird set of dialogue. Sarah Michelle Gellar was talking about her boyfriend having, playing for the Steelers or Cowboys, which they could use to help. Anyway, I sorry, I had to
Not in
throw
the
a big thing in.
'90s.
Well, that's true. Not in the although for the Steelers it depends on which part of the '90s. But anyway, yeah. So then you get to the actual scene where the movie to me kind of kicks off, and that's where they run over someone. Now, I think that's a very well shot scene. The actual everything in the car. So the driving part where Philippe's outside the sunroof doing his drunken thing, which I think I don't know about you guys, but I think all of us have at least done something similar once in their life, where they're hanging out the window like a jerk, screaming drunkenly at people or to no one, depending on the situation. Done that before. And every friend that's driving the car hates you for it. I've also been the other guy that drove the car. So, you know, that part's relatable. They hit someone. I think that's shot real well. I agree with what you put um, down here, Brian. I think that the idea of him waking back up is a big problem for me. I think it would have been a much better, stronger plot to just have it be an accident. They throw him in the water, because at least as an audience, we know that they didn't murder anyone. Up until later, we think they literally murdered someone. That makes them not likable. I want them to live with the guilt. We do not murder people. And up until that point, we think it's an innocent guy that they've decided to murder, which kind of comes later. So again, a very convoluted plot to me. So the jump scare by the fake death is it kind of bugs me. It makes some of the other stuff that happens in the movie very, very just blah. And again, as many times as I've seen this movie, which is a ton, it didn't bother me as much in the past as it did upon these rewatches. And I think it created a wall for me where I just got in a sour mood about it, because I almost forget it's there until this last rewatch. So that's pretty much all I have. So there's a mixed bag here, but I don't think the acting is bad. Me and Nico got to disagree, man. That's very unusual.
Yeah, as far as this, I mean, I had in my notes, man, that coastline looks familiar. Uh, it's almost like we've seen it in a movie we reviewed not that long ago, and we actually said that fun fact when we reviewed the birds that it was going to appear in this movie. I do love the small town atmosphere that they build in the opening scene here. It just feels very home-like to me, like, having grown up in a small town where everybody knows each other. Now, we didn't have Fish Queen beauty pageants or whatever the hell it was, but I like the atmosphere. And man, that Veronica Vaughn is married to Pete Sampras. I did not know that until I was looking up stuff for this movie. I had no idea that Bridget Wilson was married to Pete Sampras, the tennis legend. That's crazy. Good for him and her. I didn't appreciate how much of a jerk Barry was to Max, because it just felt forced. I don't know. Like, it just kind of, it was weird to me when he just walks over, shoves him out of the way, takes the shot, and then pushes him. Like, I don't know. That was kind of strange to me. And, Max had every right to go on to be a killer after that. You're going to bully me, and for while I'm trying to hit on this girl, now I'm going to kill you and your whole family.
That's super dramatic.
Why, Barry went from, no, I'm the only one that's driving my car, I have to be super protective of this car, to hanging out the sunroof 2 minutes later and spilling a bottle of liquor all inside of it. I get it, when you're drunk, like, you don't make the best decisions. Obviously, he was trying to drive, but he was, I don't know. It seems like he would have freaked out a little bit more about dropping the liquor and maybe told him to stop instead of just fumbling and distracting him while he's driving, causing the wreck. But and then, man, it was way too easy to convince everyone to dump a human body. Like, I don't know about you guys, but there's 4 of us here, so I feel like if we were riding down the road and we hit someone, whether someone had been drinking or not, I feel like we would have had a harder time coming to the conclusion of, we need to cover this up.
I don't know. I don't know. We have a pretty well-known reputation, probably, for just doing the stupidest thing. So I don't know. We might pretty easily come to the same conclusion.
I've done some things in my life that I'm not particularly proud of, but I've never been an accessory to manslaughter or anything like that. And then why wouldn't the cops believe that Barry wasn't driving? And he's like, no, they'll never believe I wasn't driving. It's my car. No, I mean, if you got 4 people and they're all saying he was driving or she was driving, the cop would have no reason not to believe that, regardless of whose car it is. All you'd have to say is, look at him. He's hammered. We weren't going to let him drive. Like, I had a problem with that. As far as that being the cornerstone of his argument of, nope, we can't call the cops. I too had a problem with the dialogue in this opening set of scenes. Not necessarily the acting, like Nico said. I don't think the acting was bad. They were working with what they were given, but they made Sarah Jessica Parker. Whoa. They made Jennifer
Wow.
Love Hewitt's character just so pretentious. She was using a very unnatural dialogue. Like her vocabulary was just kind of. It didn't seem like she would be going for someone who had, kind of a checkered past, as we're led to believe Ray has. Ray, we're led to believe comes from humble beginnings, never knew his father. He doesn't have much, and she's supposed to be this snooty, hoity-toity girl. It just makes them kind of an odd couple. Then they try so hard to fit in every 90s high school student stereotype into this. The hot blonde is going to go on to be an actress, and she dates the quarterback who's going to go on to play for the Cowboys. And then I did think it was funny when she's like, then 2 years later you go to rehab.
Yeah.
Very Dak Prescott of him. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, wow. I think it was more like Michael Irvin. I think she's talking about booger sugar rehab.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, an okay set of scenes is kind of all over the place. They're cramming a lot in here. Storyline gets a little muddied. I agree with what you said. We didn't need him waking up. We didn't need that underwater shot where he's frozen, standing up, looking like Jason at the bottom of the lake.
He looks like Voorhees in New Blood.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, I've never seen a dead body under the water, but I don't think it would just go down and just stand straight up like that. It struck me as odd. And like you said, him opening his eyes, him grabbing him, that took away from it. Because, like you said, now they actually did attempt murder. Before, they were just scared kids trying to not to destroy their lives. They were just trying to put this behind them. He's dead. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no need in us throwing our whole lives away. But they know he's alive. An apology might have been more appropriate than shoving him off the dock there. And then, for me, I lose sympathy for these characters. Their deaths, their demise. Well, I guess not deaths, but the way they're stalked, and all the torment that they're put through is understandable. It's justifiable. Like, you try to kill me, I'm going to get you back. And so, to me, you lose that protagonist, sweetheart, darling, natural feeling there because of they're attempted murderers. So it's just kind of, if they had they written that differently, I think I would have appreciated this set of scenes a lot more.
And by the way, you mentioned them being kind of bland stock characters in the first set of scenes. I think after the first set of scenes, they do become more interesting, well-rounded characters. Because of this event happens, clearly there's trauma and all this other stuff. So I think as the movie goes, the dialogue is a little bit better. The acting gets better as well to me, because the characters are more interesting than just your stereotypical jock, just your stereotypical blonde girl that wants to go be an actor. And Jennifer Love Hewitt's character always was kind of interesting, but she really, is dealing with the trauma and everything else. And I think they become better characters as the movie goes. But in this first set of scenes, that's just not how that's not how we talk to each other on this show. And it's not how anybody in my life talks to each other. Very unnatural dialogue, which is unusual for Kevin Williamson, I feel.
All right, 1 year later, we're on campus, and Deb is rushing Julie to hurry up because they got to go. Deb drops Julie off at her mom's house. Mama greets her with a big hug. Julie isn't eating much, and Mom asks if she's on drugs. Julie tells her no, and Mom says, "What's wrong with you? You look like death." And she says, "I've had a rough year." Mom asks, "What happened to my daughter? You don't call? You don't visit?" And Julie, she sees a letter for her and opens it. It says, "I know what you did last summer." She asks who sent this, and neither of them know. That night, she sits on the couch and stares at the note. She hears a scratch at the window and dogs barking. She closes the curtain and sits back on the couch. The next day, we're at Elsa's store, and Julie walks in and asks for Helen's New York number. She doesn't have one, and she works at the store now with Elsa. They have an awkward reunion. New York didn't work out. Julie shows her the note. They were careful, Helen says. She asks Julie, has Barry seen this? Julie and Helen are walking up to Barry's house, and Julie asks if they've broken up. And Barry greets them with a very friendly, "Hey, what are you two doing here?" He doesn't take the note serious, and he tells them they look like shit run over twice. He yells at Julie when she mentions the murder. They debate what happened, and Julie says it was David Egan. He was caught in a shrimp's net, and the police called it an accidental drowning. Barry asked about Ray and if he's seen the note. Julie and Ray broke up. Barry asked why would someone who else was there would send a note a year later. Barry accuses Max. Down at the wharf, Barry goes to Max's job, and he asks if they can talk. They go to the back, and he grabs his collar and pushes him to the wall. He says, "We got your note," and he grabs a hook and says he's got no problem killing him. Max has no idea what's going on. He cuts him with the hook and leaves, and Max yells, "Don't you test me, I'll call the cops." All right, Brian, go ahead. That's the next two scenes I got, man.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot on this, but this kind of what it kind of speaks to what Dustin was talking about with the characters not necessarily being likable. But I think that with this point, but I really think that especially in this movie, that's what makes this different and makes it kind of stand out and make me like it a lot. Because especially in this group of scenes, like I really love how this is a movie about consequences. I love how this is a you can't run from your past type movie, and these I don't want to call them heroes, protagonists, maybe the main group of teens here, but they're not innocent. Like you said, that they aren't just some victims like the killer is stalking for no reason, like most slasher movies. I mean, there's a real, like, you could even say legitimate reason in this that he's going after them. And I really like that. These characters, and I think we get to know them pretty well, in my opinion, in that first group of scenes. Like, but it does a good job of kind of defining their hopes and their dreams, and their goals. And then we find out here that because of those consequences that none of them worked out. Like they're almost in this almost purgatory for it now. Now with that said, Julie in this very first group of scenes, I mean, she's acting like it happened yesterday, not a year later to me. This is how, in my opinion, she should have been acting after maybe receiving the first note, but not after a year later. But that's just me, and maybe something I would have changed. But and I get that it would affect her coming home and whatnot, but it kind of just seemed a little bit over the top for me the way she was acting. Again, I think this movie handles the red herrings really good, setting up even Bridget Wilson just a touch in this as she's shown, like listening to their conversation as the girls are kind of discussing the note, and then of course Max, and once he bites it in the next group of scenes, like you're kind of back to the whole mystery thing, and again I think that mystery of the whodunit killer to me plays out better than Scream. And I'm only comparing the two because they're both written by Williamson, and what Mike said is absolutely right. I mean, it's hard to compare the two, except that they're both written by the same guy. So that's why, and a lot of people do compare them. So I guess that's why I'm really doing it too. Lastly, you're really at this point, you're not only really suspecting like a member of the group, but there's also like this little tidbit of a real almost supernatural possibility too, because you got that urban legend earlier, and you're like, did he come back from the dead? Again, I really like the story in this one.
Yeah. So again, I kind of mentioned it before you started reading your scene by scene, Nico, where I think the characters at least become more interesting in this set of scenes. Now, whether I agree with the direction to have her still be a little, spaced out a year later and everything else, it's a completely different topic. At least there's some depth here to our characters, and so I kind of like it. I think it adds something. I agree with you, Brian, a little bit that it helped. they're not likable, so it kind of makes it, at least the movie is a little different than your normal stock slasher, where sometimes you end up liking the characters depending on which slasher that is anyway. So again, I think Coming Home is kind of a fun thing. I think 1 year later is a horror trope, at least in slasher movies it is anyway, and even in possession movies and stuff, it's always 1 year later, unless you're Rob Zombie in Halloween 2 and you do 2 years later in your director's cut. But anyway, but you get a lot of, it's just a lot of stock horror stuff though. The note, she's just kind of staring at the note. There's some big tropes here, and again, how this Sarah Michelle Gellar's character gave up on New York after a year. A year? Not even a year. Really? Who knows how long she's been home already? That stuff takes longer to do, man. It takes longer to accomplish. I know that's something that people point out online, like, oh, her and Ray are already back home. Like, that's an easy way to give up, man. Now, I was only in Jacksonville for, a very small period of time. I won't get into why, but, it happens. You come home sometimes. I don't have a lot on these set of scenes, and partially because not a ton happens, except for I think they do a good job. You mentioned it, Brian, in the first set of doing some red herrings with the group, the main group, where I'm kind of suspicious. The first time I ever saw it, I'm kind of suspicious of everyone except for Sarah Michelle Gellar, because I don't think her character could pull it off. But again, just a lot of stock horror tropes in this set of scenes to me, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I just kind of think that when I see written by Kevin Williamson, I'm so used to a little more meta, a little more depth, and here we're just getting kind of a straight up slasher movie, which I like if it's presented well, but not a whole lot on this set of scenes. Probably the most kind of flat set of scenes in the movie to me.
Yeah. So we get the fast forward. Man, Julie she has lost everything, every aspect of her character. She doesn't have that bubbly personality anymore. She looks like she's seen a ghost, which she hadn't at this point. She just, her mother had every right to ask, "Are you on drugs?" Because that's what she looked like. She almost looked like she probably shouldn't be in school. She should be in a mental health facility because she has lost it. Then she gets the note, freaks out about it, but there's only a handful. There's only one sentence on the note, and it did bother me that she just sat on the couch staring at it. It's like, what's she trying to do? See if she recognized the handwriting, to see if it had some invisible ink that would show up after a certain amount of time. Like, put it away. Like, I don't know.
Dude,
that bothered me.
She examined that like the police investigated the John Bonet ransom note, dude. Like, they were just looking at it.
Yeah, right. Whatever. I hate Barry. I thought it was funny that when he had one liner when he was talking to the girls about what they look like, but God, he is so insufferable. And then he goes to the fish. They go to the fish dock or whatever, and Max says, "Well, I was just wondering whatever happened to that old Barry Cox." That was funny because you could tell Max was not thrilled to see him. But then when Max gets roughed up by him there, man, Max has every right to kill this guy at this point. Like, maybe not kill him, but he definitely has some bad things coming his way. So in my mind, watching this movie, I'm like, okay, I don't care necessarily if it's Max. I would like for Max to be the one that kills him because he deserves it after all the stuff he's putting him through. But if it's not him, then someone needs to, because this character sucks. And then we get the scene where Julie talks to Ray, and he's like, I know you hold me accountable. And man, she dropped one of the harshest lines I've ever heard. She's like, I don't hold you accountable. I just can't know you anymore. And it's like, man, just to walk off on that, it's like, you're not even gonna. If you don't hold me accountable, then can't we work this out? You were just telling me you love me on the beach. What's going on here?
I think. Go ahead. I think that's in the next group of scenes, but I got that too. That's like a super proverbial kick in the nuts right there. Like,
that's a Stephen A. Smith pain meme right there, brother.
Yeah.
And it's just this set of scenes, though. It really makes me wish even more that the he hadn't opened his eyes underwater, or he hadn't grabbed him on the dock there, because then when she gets the letter in the mail, like, we have no reason to suspect it's him. Now, granted, we don't know that he survived being pushed in the dock and left like that, because I guess he couldn't swim and he sunk like a dang rock. But still, it's just, if you just eliminate that possibility that could even be him, it just would have made the climax so much better. So it is what it is. A decent set of scenes. I don't have any more notes on it either. I don't, it's not a very note heavy section, but definitely hate Barry.
The girls ask if he admitted to the letter, and Barry says he took care of it. The three see Ray now, who is a fisherman. Barry leaves, and Ray asks to talk to Julie. Helen leaves to go back to work. Julie tells him about the note, and Ray thinks Max is just screwing around. They start to chat, and Ray says he's been thinking a lot about last summer. And like Dustin said, Julie doesn't blame him, but she doesn't want to know him either, and she runs away. Back with Max, he sticks the hook on a block of ice. He's putting crabs, I think he's putting in boilers, I guess, and we see the hook is missing now. It's really steamy, and Max hears a noise. He looks up, and a man dressed as a fisherman stabs the hook into him, dragging him away. We see Barry now at the gym doing some boxing. He's in the locker room, and he hears a noise and yells hello. He takes a shower and heads back to his locker, and he sees a picture of his car. In the back of it says, "I know." Barry walks around calling for people and looking around. He notices his jacket is gone too. He asks like the guy on duty who else is here. He goes outside to see his car has been stolen. The person backs away super fast, and he thinks it's Max. The headlights turn on and chases after Barry now. He zigzags but is eventually cornered, and he jumps on the hood and driven through a building. The driver exits and hovers Barry as he yells for help. The fisherman pulls a hook from his coat, and Barry cries out he's sorry, and we get a fade to black. Julie shows up to the hospital and is greeted by Helen and Ray. Barry tells them he didn't see a face, and the guy didn't try and kill him. He was just fucking with him. He accuses Ray because he has a slicker. I guess that's the code or whatever. Barry says he's not going to the police, and neither are you. He says we need to find out who it is and have a one-on-one. Julie says it has to be a friend or family member of David Egan. Ray still believes it's Max, and Julie tells Ray there is no you and me as she storms away. Julie and Helen are doing research on the computer and read of David Egan's killing Susie Willis, running off the road, and an accidental drowning. Julie says she saw the name on the victim's forearm. Julie and Helen head to David Egan family house. Helen compares this to Jodie Foster going to a serial killer's house. They knock to no answer, and they search the house. I wrote Julie being really extra, looking around everywhere. They're greeted by a woman, and they say their car broke down and need to use a phone. All right, go ahead, Brian. That's the next two scenes I got.
Yeah, so this is stupid, and it's probably just me, but like I said, I've listened to Freddie Prinze Jr.'s voice like a lot on that podcast, and his voice sounds so odd in a lot of this movie, but especially in this group of scenes, like on the dock. It's almost like Freddie on helium. I don't know. It's super bizarre to me. It does fix in some of the scenes, with him just talking to Julie here in a minute was one of the examples that it did fix. But so I don't know if the sound was off or what, but I definitely noticed that. And yeah, I wrote that I'd sound like that too, though, if I'd just gotten that whole proverbial kick to the nuts that that Julie just gave him with that whole "I don't want to know you." Just seems super super dramatic. Max getting hosed. Probably a favorite death scene for sure. I know that there was a back and forth about having to go back and do reshoots and add blood, whatever. I don't care. This ending product, though, eh, uh, is this like the first real introduction to Ben as well as the fisherman and that hook coming out of the fog. It's just, I think it's so badass. I love every bit of it. I think it's very well done. Um, I think Felipe does great in this role again and again. I'm not giving credit because, I can't remember where I heard this, but it may have been Dead Meat's Kill Count. But whatever I was watching, they said they had the director like quoted saying that he wasn't their first choice because he wasn't the whole quote unquote jock type. And maybe they wanted him bulkier, and Felipe made up for it. But I think it's great. I think that he plays him perfectly, and honestly is more suited for that role than some big muscle bound guy. Because I mean, he's supposed to be a quarterback, and high school wanted that. I think he's great, and in this locker room scene. But the car chase scene is absolutely laughable to me. I hate it. Like the running, the winding, like so much, like back and forth. It's almost like a spoof there. Like nobody would fucking run like that. That's crazy. So let's just forget about the fact that we know that there's a dude at the gym right now. He just talked to him, so that whole noise didn't trigger anyone to walk outside. Um, I don't know. I think that they should have uh, uh, just had him run him over and cut to the hospital. If that's what you're going to do, and had him drive away. I didn't like the scene with him hovering over him. I think that whole thing to me needed to be cut. Lastly, Anne Heish, friend of the show, Anne Heish, who's half our intro on this episode. I think she plays this role extremely well as Egan's sister. A little fun fact that the house that serves as the whole Egan residence here is actually located in Curry, North Carolina. It was built in 1910, and someone actually lives there today and spent $347,000 for that house. Just a little fun fact there. And just one not so fun fact to end it on: Anne Heche actually could greatly relate to her character. She said of Missy, because Anne had a tragic passing of her own brother pretty recently before this movie. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so this set of scenes has what I think, and I know we're supposed to wait till the end, but oh well. This set of scenes has the best kill in the movie to me. It's definitely the only. It's really one of the only on-screen ones that you get to see. And I know they did some reshoots and stuff to make sure there was, some kind of blood. I'm sure that somebody has it in their fun facts, but I mean, to me, it's the best kill of the movie. I don't think it's particularly close. Sorry, Leonard. I mean, Jonathan Galecki. Or David from Roseanne, whatever you know him from. I mean, just a really cool kill, a very innovative one. I love it. I think it adds a little something to the movie. I'm so glad they went back and reshot that, because a hook through the face and he gets drug and you see the blood trail, and I think it's a really, really cool kill. And I think that scene shot really well with the steam and everything else, or smoke or whatever you call that. I think it's done really, really well. It's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Again, Dustin touched on hating Barry. He's pretty hard to like here. I think the acting is good, and that is why I don't like the character. He's a jerk. He's a douche.
Right.
A few scenes ago, he commits physical assault on Jennifer Love Hewitt, which no one should ever do, and
That's right.
and it's all because of his guilt. So again, very unlikable character, however, very well acted, I think. However, this car chase and everything after it stinks to me. First of all, the car chase is bad. I don't think it's shot well. It's almost shot like a Wile E. Coyote scene, which I can't stand. It's very, very goofy. There's stuff that can be so bad it's good, but this movie takes that scene very seriously. So unfortunately, it's just not good to me. And by the way, most people that go through a wall would probably die on impact with a car. I don't know, maybe not everybody, but I feel like a lot of people would. The fact that he's apparently Clark Kent or Superman or whatever. I don't know how superheroes work. I'm not familiar. But the fact that he's that and makes it through, and he just has like a scrape or two on his face and a cast on his arm is kind of unbelievable to me. The scene in the hospital, again, just very unlikable by Barry, and I want to see him die. To be honest, I don't think his character has enough depth. He's just very mean and mean spirited, and you could tell everybody or the two girls in the room don't really like him, even though he's dating one of them. It's just a kind of bizarre that they didn't just kill Barry right there in the car scene. I think that would have been fitting, considering that it's goofy and he's a jerk, and I feel like it would have been a good way to just go ahead and axe him off, because he really doesn't add anything later to me. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not well acted. It just I hate to harp on it, but it took me completely out that car scene.
Mike, I said the same thing that they probably would have been good taking him out there, but I really, just personally, I think like the whole scene of him being on that balcony and
Oh yeah,
stuff. So I was like, man, then we wouldn't get that. But I did say that for a second. The same.
right. And the car ride where they kind of pull up to Missy's house, it's really weird. And I'm pretty sure that the Dead Meat James gets into it on his kill count, but this is right before the Psycho remake, and so Anne Heche, again, not really familiar with everything she did before this, if anything, but the timing is very weird because she's in this, and then the next thing that we really see her in is the Psycho remake, which, spoiler, we are going to review that at some point on this show. I can't wait to review that because I feel like it's going to drive Nico absolutely insane. So that'll be fun. But I like the character of Missy. I think it's a very different character from the rest of the cast. Very odd, very out there, and I think Anne Heche does a good job. Like you said, front of the show. Thanks for the intro. I think that I like that house. That's a very creepy house, almost almost like one of the Texas Chainsaw cabins from the sequels. I think it's a very good, set. Well, and Jennifer Love Hewitt's acting here is good. This is where, again, me and Nico are going to disagree, but when she gets all flustered and runs from the house, I think it's really good. So, again, very believable. And that's pretty much all I had. I think that this is a good set of scenes, except for the car. That's bad. That's like Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff, or whatever that show was called. I don't know. I'm way too young for that. But
God Almighty!
What? Oh, was it something I said? I'm sorry. But no, I look, anything with a car and a kill like that. Like that one movie Joyride that we had to review on this show, unfortunately, is not for me. So that's pretty much all I had.
One man said, "I don't know how superheroes work."
I don't watch superhero movies except for Nolan's Batman trilogy, which I thought was really good.
Can't wait to make you review Christine.
I can't wait to review Christine too, so I can take a poop all over it.
Go ahead. Anyway, this set of scenes does, like you guys said, it has a phenomenal kill. I love the optic. I love the hint that we get. That's the foreshadowing when he slams the hook into the ice block, and then when he walks back, they show you the indentions there, but the hook's not. So something bad's about to happen. And then just the optic, the way it was shot with him leaning forward and the hook just slinging up and coming through the bottom of his chin, him getting dragged. I do think the fake blood in this movie looks awful, though. I don't know what it is. It looks way too red to me. It doesn't look like blood.
I get that. I agree.
But, as awesome as this kill looked, why was Max killed? Why was he implicated at all? Just because he knows these kids? And if that's the case, then Fisherman should have killed everybody in the whole town. Max didn't like these kids. He had nothing to do with it. The only thing he did was, he drove by, but he didn't even see what happened. So I have a huge problem with that. Like, there's no reason for Max to have been killed other than just to give us a kill and give us some gore, which, like you guys said, they reshot it because there wasn't enough for it to be a true horror slasher movie. They wanted more kills in it, but Max didn't.
So Dustin, like, to answer that question, because that's actually, that same question's been put up to them like a lot, and their answer, the canon answer supposedly is just that Max was killed off to show that the killer was a real threat to the protagonist. Like, that was it. And alternately, he knew Max was Julie's friend, and so he killed him to torture her. But that's their on record answer anyway. Take it for what you will.
Yeah, I read that as well, but that doesn't work for me. That's not good enough. Because if you just want to kill him because it's Julie's friend, then kill Julie's mom, kill Julie's roommate, kill other friends, family members. Like, it just doesn't. That's not a good enough reason just because these friends are. Because, like I said, Max did not like Ray and Barry. He liked one of these 4 people. So, whatever.
Well, obviously, Freddie Prinze Jr. didn't want to do the job, brother.
Yeah.
Fuck Max. Fuck Max. He needed the hook. Fuck him too.
The whole universe is in a hot, dense space.
Max, when we were introduced to Max, though, he was just a nice guy offering a drink to a girl that he had a crush on. He had a reason to be a jerk and be a little bit unlikable. Is because he gets embarrassed and emasculated right in front of that same girl right after he offers her a drink and asks her out. Her man comes over
right in front of her boyfriend. Exactly. Well, Ray should have punched him in the face, but I mean, he had a friend, and his friend took care of his business. So no, Max is not innocent.
I didn't say he's innocent, but it's not enough to get a hook through the chin and be the first kill. He has no reason for this killer to kill him. Especially
touche. He did not deserve to die at all. I agree.
Especially when this killer runs down the main advocate for dumping his body. Like, he runs him over with his own car and then leaves him alive. Like, what? And another thing that I have a problem with in movies is if you're being chased by a car and the road that the car is driving on is basically only wide enough for that car, but there's plenty of areas for you to duck off to the side in between buildings or up a stairway, do that. He just kept running in a straight line, letting his car come straight at him. Like, I was watching him, and I rewound it. They show this one building that he ran by that had a stairway going up to a door. He could have just jumped on those steps, ran up those steps, let the car speed by, and then run the other way. Because then he had just got done
playing Tecmo Super Bowl with Bo Jackson, and so he was trying to run in that whole zigzag. I think that's what happened.
This is 97, not 92. What are you talking about? Crash Bandicoot had already been out, brother.
He wasn't even running in serpentine. He was just running a straight line. He had plenty of opportunities. This man never played Tomb Raider where he had to duck out of the way of those boulders.
Baby.
It's bad. And then
here's an idea. If you're thinking about writing a car death scene in a movie, don't. Oh, sorry.
No, that doesn't work for me, Mike. You can do that. You can kill people with cars. Maximum Overdrive. But here's the thing. If you're going to run him over with the car, then yeah, it should have killed him. It should have broke his neck, broke his back. Instead, he got a broken wrist and a few scratches on his face. And then you're going to get out of the car. You're going to walk over to him and stand over him. You're going to show him your hook. But you're not going to kill him. And like I said, he's the one that wanted you dead. He's the one that wanted to dump your body. He's the one that silenced his 3 friends that probably would have done right by you. He's the one. But you're just going to let him faint and wake up in the hospital. Okay. No. Take it somewhere else. Horrible scene. I really like, let's fast forward here. I don't want to harp on that scene anymore. The scene where Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt, man, how far technology's come, right? That internet was something else. And it's funny, not one Control F was done. They were just finding this stuff without using the fine shortcut, but that's okay. It was also, we get an Angela Lansbury reference, like shout out to Murder, She Wrote. Every grandmother in the world, I'm pretty sure, has subjected their grandkids to that at some point or another. And then, so there's a little bit of meta for you, just a smidge, not much. And then I like when they're walking up to the house. She makes reference to Jodie Foster got her, met a skin peeling psychopath when she knocked on a door like this, blah blah blah, whatever. Referencing Silence of the Lambs, another good thriller movie. So I like that dialogue. I like that dialogue a lot. But the acting in this set is like this portion of the scene is the best in the film to me. When we get I like the way that Sarah Michelle Gellar and Julie and Helen. Helen's just such a weird name to call someone who's a teenager.
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of I think all of them have really weird.
I agree, and I
names.
said the
I
wrong
agree.
name. It's Helen. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Helen Hunt is
Freddy's is
all I think
Freddy's is
of, and I don't
weird
want to.
too.
Well, hold on
Yeah.
now. I mean, the character Ray shows up in Scary Movie, so you know. Oh, that's a different Ray. Never mind.
Way completely different Ray. Oh, PTSD from that. Oh,
And then we get the best bit of acting in the whole movie. Anne Hayes, she really stole the show. She's the star of this film because of this set of scenes, in my opinion. Her character, that's acting 101. She killed it, knocked it out of the park. My highest marks of any grading I do on this film are given to her. So overall, it's man. And I know we broke the house scene down into two scenes, so we'll get into the rest on in this next breakdown. But this set of scenes is really just tainted to me by the fact that Barry lived. Barry wasn't smart enough to run in a non-straight line when you're being chased by a car, and Max was killed. Doesn't work. Go ahead.
Yeah. This set of scenes is a compliment sandwich. You've got a really good kill on the front end as the really good piece of bread, like a brioche bun, perhaps, and then they put a Zaxby's chicken patty in the middle, which is unfortunate. And then they ended it with another nice piece of brioche bun because of the acting of Anne Heish, because she's great. So,
dude, sidebar, I did not know we had agreeing takes on Zaxby's chicken. Like, it's overrated. That chicken sandwich they're trying to pass off is dry. Anyway.
Yeah, that's not good. I've had two now. No go for me. I love their tenders, though. Really good tenders.
A lot just went on in the past minute. Fun fact, I had Zaxby's for dinner tonight. The girls are using fake names now, and Helen, I wrote,
condolences.
Helen gets a ridiculous jump scare from a hanging coat as she goes to call AAA. Her name is Missy Egan. They went to the same high school, and Julie asked about David. That's her brother. Julie asks if she lives alone, and she does. Things haven't been the same since he died. Missy offers them a cup of tea as they wait. Julie looks on at the pictures, and Helen says she remembers him, and they try and be sneaky and ask questions. Missy says one guy stopped by to pay respects. Missy doesn't know his whereabouts, but his name was Billy Blue. They leave and go back to the car. Julie looks distraught after being in the house. Helen says it was an accident, and another jump scare as Missy bangs the window as she hands them the cigarettes they forgot. Julie stops at Helen's house and say we try and track down this Billy Blue. Helen says maybe he wanted to die. He killed his girlfriend a year earlier. Helen asks what happened to us. We used to be best friends. We used to be a lot of things, Julie says, and she drives off. Helen goes inside, and her pops is watching some college baseball and doesn't even acknowledge her. We see a door open again, and it's the fisherman, because we don't lock doors in this household. Helen pours a quarter of a can of Coke in a glass with no ice and leaves it on the counter and heads upstairs. That really bothered me. I don't know why. She heads upstairs.
I was about to say that seemed like it did.
That bothered the hell out of me.
That's how Santa Claus comes at the 4th of July in North Carolina, and he only likes Coke with no ice.
Diet Coke with no ice. He's knocking off them Christmas cookie pounds. Where am I at? Helen pours a quarter of a can of Coke in a glass with no ice and leaves it on the counter. And it heads upstairs, but we see the fisherman's already went up there. Helen changes into her jammies and looks at her crown. Elsa comes in the room and says she needs her at the store by 10 to help with inventory. Helen says she can't make it because she's in the parade as the outgoing queen. And again, Elsa's being a bitch as she walks out the room. Helen lays in bed and goes to sleep. The next morning, she wakes up with the crown on her head, and she notices her hair has been chopped up while she's been sleeping. She freaks out and sees soon in blood, or I guess is blood, written on her mirror. She calls Julie, and Julie gets in the car and heads to her house. As she drives, she hears scratchy noises. She finally pulls over and sees Max's dead body in the trunk with blue crabs filling it up. Julie is terrified and almost gets ran over in the street. She slams it shut and runs to Helen's. Helen, Julie, and Barry get back to the car, and the trunk is empty now. Julie says he was wearing his jacket, and then Barry jokingly asks if the crabs carried him away. Julie says he's fucking with us. What are you waiting for, huh? She yells and spins around the road. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, again, I really like this scene with Missy and the girls. I think it plays out really well. There's a lot of real to it, and knowing that it was Freddie, Ray, that visited, and hearing her talk about him, and setting up that whole like Billy Blue false reveal at the end. I really like that a lot. Again, just Anne Heche just does such a tremendous job, and and also Julie and Helen in the car. Props to them. Again, I think they showed big acting chops, and also like again, it's showing those real consequences and making you feel the weight of those consequences with those two, I think, really good performances there. I thought. Maybe I'm biased, but all the sequences with Helen are my favorite bits in the movie, honestly. The house scene, I think, plays very well, very filled. Giving more fuel to the whole Bridget Wilson red herring. Although, God, she's such a bitch. Like, washed up old has been having a moment. Shit. Well, Dead Meat had a great point though. If you're gonna have him mess with her and cut her hair, that's all fine and good, but he cuts it to like a good looking haircut. Like it's not like it's shaved down the middle, which obviously they couldn't do with their filming Buffy, but I still feel like they could have done something with that, like a very short wig. I don't know, something, or just don't have him cut her hair. Have him do something else to torment her. That wasn't, ridiculous. I also wanted to give credit to the cinematographer. That one shot where Julie gets the call and walks down the stairs, and gets in her car, all with no cuts, just that whole one shot. That was, I think, it was very well done. As well as the "What are you waiting for?" I think that was a very good cinematic shot, and I think 100% why that scene is so synonymous with this whole movie. Um, so another little fun fact is Jennifer Love Hewitt actually recommended Galecki for the role because they knew each other from like living in the same apartment complex when I think he was doing Christmas Vacation, and their sister were friends or something. But he recalled doing like a body cast for the scene where Julie opens the trunk and finds his dead body is in it with a crab crawling out of his mouth. He later got a call. This is so stupid. He later got a call that production was shut down because Jennifer Love Hewitt was so upset by seeing the dead body cast of him. He called, reassured her that he was very much alive. What? Seriously? Like, you're so damn dramatic. You shut down production because of seeing a fake dead body of your friend on a movie set. What the fuck? I don't know. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, that's some diva shit, super dramatic. Lastly, I didn't like that whole trunk being like completely cleaned out when they go back. I mean, I'm fine with the body. I think the body should have been gone, but I think the crab should have still been there. I think that would have been more realistic and still kind of gives the same effect. And why does Barry not believe her? I think that's stupid because she clearly knows that his jacket is gone, and Julie wouldn't have known that. So I think that's a little plot hole there too. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I like the dialogue in the car after the house with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I think it makes, again, adds a little character depth there. I like that. Okay, so I'm just going to get around to what I think is the main focal point of this scene, and that is, what are you waiting for? Okay, first of all, I know it's iconic. I don't know if it's iconic for the right reasons. As much
Cindy
as I
did
praise,
it better. Or Cindy did it
yeah,
better.
as much as I praise Jennifer Love Hewitt's acting, I think it's pretty bad there. She looks like Randy Orton on the top rope with her arms. There's another wrestling reference for you.
Boo.
What? You don't think she's hearing voices in her head?
I didn't think it was that bad.
It's fine. Like, hey, but one thing I completely agree with you on, and it takes me really out of this set of scenes, is the trunk being completely cleared out. And I think that's a cool visual with the crabs and Max's body. I think that's a really cool shot. I think I love the way they do that. I think it being there makes sense. I would have maybe left like leaves some kind of clue. Not only is it completely cleaned out, it's put back with the crowbar and everything else. Like, it looks like they're, first of all, if you have a bunch of crabs in your trunk, you're going to have a ton of sand. So you're going to tell me this man vacuumed the trunk in time? Come on, man. I'm just saying. And you know there
It's
was
gonna
some
be slimy as hell too. I don't know if these.
right.
Have you ever touched like stuff like that? It's gonna be so slimy and disgusting. Like, did he change out the whole trunk, like the
I think
interior of everything?
I've
It's
never touched
crazy.
a dead body before. I can confirm that.
I just meant the crabs, like being them. They have
Right.
a natural
Right.
slime on
And
them.
again, right. I've never touched a dead body, but I have touched crabs, and they do have like a top layer of like thin goo slime or whatever. You've never touched you've never gone for crabs? No? Okay. I have anyway. Uh, but anyway, yeah, so again, I'm going back. The hair scene with Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think, is really good. You talked about uh, Helen being kind of a jerk for no reason. I tend to agree with that, but I actually think it kind of works for what ends up happening to her character. So I'm okay with it. How he got into the house way too easy, which I actually kind of chuckled at this last rewatch. I said, of course he's in there, of course. But her look. Obviously, they're not gonna. Sarah Michelle Gellar was not gonna let them shave her head, and I don't blame her. Not for the I mean, I'm sure they were paid well, but I'm sure it wasn't like a ton of money. You'd have to pay me a decent amount if I had her upward trend of a career to shave my head. But I, I, I like the fact that clearly she's obsessed with her hair. She's obsessed with how she looks, and he chops some of her hair off. I like that. Now, what I don't like, look, for whatever reason, I'm referencing a lot of wrestling on this show, but I don't like her going all Bill Goldberg and punching glass. It doesn't make any sense. At least Bill Goldberg had he almost lost his arm because he hit a main artery. Nothing happened to her. We don't see any cuts. We don't see any scrapes. No bruises. No hospital trip for her. Nothing. She ends up getting her hair fixed, dresses like a Britney Spears, like that one Britney Spears dance, and that's it. So some unrealistic stuff in this set of scenes. It doesn't completely remove from me, but the trunk being clean and her punching a mirror and nothing happening and all of that. Again, I kind of nitpicked at the "What are you waiting for?" scene. Clearly, I enjoy it for what it is, but because of Scary Movie, I can't help but laugh at it now because I think it's almost done better in that movie. It's at least a funnier scene anyway. So a mixed bag in the set of scene.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you. This is the set of scenes though I was talking about last time. We split the house scene into two, so this is where you really see Anne Heche steal the show with how kooky she acted and just bizarre. And I mean, rightfully so. She's been through so much trauma, and her mom was never the same, and it put a lot of stress on her family. All this, I love that backstory that we get there, and just her portrayal in that scene was phenomenal. I do like the foreshadowing that we get of the hair being cut, like when her sister comes in there, she mentions her and her hair, and then earlier in the scene when or in the movie when she's at the beauty pageant, she mentioned something about her hair is everything, blah blah blah. And so I think it was funny that he cut her hair in her sleep. I wish he would have done more of a hack job, as it wasn't that bad, and she could just cut it all to that length and be fine, which she did. But why didn't he kill her? I have a problem with the way that he's tormenting them, because if he's going to torment them to continue to send things in the mail, continue to do things that don't imply that you're in the same room, that you're nearby and you're watching. But if you're gonna show me that, if you're gonna kill Max to show that he is an actual threat, then how am I going to believe that he's a threat to the main protagonist when he's in the same room with one of them when she's sleeping? has every opportunity in the world to kill her, and all he does is cut her hair and put her crown on her head and write on the mirror with her lipstick. That doesn't work for me.
The Max thing really bothers you.
It's inconsistent. It doesn't make sense. If I were the fisherman, I wouldn't have gone about things this way. If I'm going to kill him off rip when he wasn't even involved, then the first chance I get to kill these other kids, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let one pass out and get to wake up in a hospital. I'm not going to let one get to punch herself in the reflection. When that glass shatters, I'm coming in like Steve Austin to finish the job. But another wrestling reference. You're welcome, Mike. The crabs in the trunk, I thought was a great touch because that's the kind of spooking I'm talking about. He wasn't right there in the same, he wasn't right there with her with an opportunity to kill her. He just put a dead body in her trunk with a bunch of crabs, let her find it on her own to spook her. That's the kind of stuff that works. And I think it's great too that when she came back, they were gone because she had no evidence to show everyone that they could have looked at her like, hey, you're crazy. And they did. And I like that. It is unbelievable how quickly he did it though. Like, yeah, I have a problem with that. I would have liked for it to been, her explained or something that it took her hours to find everyone, to get everyone together. And then give him some more time to clean that dead body and the crabs out of the trunk. But it is what it is. I also kind of like the build-up that we're getting here. This is a set of scenes where we're starting to get some suspense to where the protagonists are turning on each other. They're starting to suspect that it's Ray. I like that. That's building in a nice little subplot there. But it's just kind of a mixed bag for me because I still am hung up on the fact that Max died for no reason. And Barry's still out there kicking it.
Fuck Max.
Barry also, if I have any listeners named Barry, we love you, but your name is suspect at best.
Suspect.
Only Barry we recognize as Bonds and Manilow.
At the Copa.
And our listeners, Barry, they're all great.
They're all great. Great name.
What about Barry White? Barry White, he's cool. He's cool too, right?
Oh
yeah.
At the Copacabana, the hottest spot. No, oh, sorry.
All right, the three run into Ray, and Ray says, "I've been looking all over for y'all." And then Barry punches him and jumps on top of him. Barry calls him a liar, and Ray says he's after him too because he got a letter, and that scene is hilarious to me. Barry accuses Ray of killing Max and stealing his jacket. Julie says we got to stick together. Barry asks, "Who is it?" Julie says it's Billy Blue, and Ray surprisingly asks, "How do you know that?" They start to look through yearbooks, and Helen suggests we take the yearbooks to Missy to identify who it is. Julie volunteers to go to Missy's. She tells Barry to go to the parade and watch out for Helen. Ray says, let's get the hell out of here, but Julie says she wants her life back. And I wrote, Ray is looking kind of sketchy. At the parade now, and Helen is giving some pretty weak queen waves in the parade. Helen looks into the crowd and spots a fisherman pointing to Barry. Barry takes off after him and tackles him, but it's a false alarm. Julie makes it to Missy's house with the yearbook. No answer at the door, so Julie looks around the yard for her, calling out for her. Another jump scare as Missy approaches Julie with a knife. What you doing here? She asks Julie. Helen looks into the crowd and sees a bunch of fishermen and sees a man on a balcony with the hook hand. Julie says she needs to find your brother's friend, Billy Blue. She tells Missy what happened wasn't an accident. Missy says it was a suicide. He left a note. She shows Julie the note. It says, I will never forget last summer. It's not a suicide note. It's a death threat. Julie says they ran him over that night. Missy says he had Susie tattooed on his arm, and Missy says he doesn't have a tattoo and kicks her out. Julie says it wasn't her brother. We're setting the stage for the pageant again, and Helen tells Barry she saw the man with the hook. Barry says he'll be in the balcony. Pageant time, and a potential next queen performs, and we see a shadow move behind Barry. Helen screams for Barry when she sees the man attacking him. The fisherman hacks into him over and over. The crowd stops Helen from running up to the balcony for some reason. A cop asks who's killing who. They go up there and see nothing. He thinks it's not his idea of a funny joke. and we see some blood drops as they walk away. The officer offers to take Helen home, and the pageant MC takes her crown. Helen tells the cop about the fisherman with the hook, and it's the same person who cut off her hair. He backs up and takes an alley when they run into a barrier. Helen insults him, saying he'll fry in hell if she doesn't take the murder seriously. They run into a man working on a broke-down truck. The cop gets out to help, and Helen notices it's the fisherman. She screams, "Behind you," but boom, hook to the gut. All right, go ahead, Brian, and the next two scenes are the ending.
Yeah, so the opening of this group of scenes, Barry completely missing him with a punching Ray, like put that to the side. But how is he punching him with the cast on his arm and a broken wrist? I mean, I think that's ridiculous. And right here, all Ray has to do whenever they bring up Billy Blue is just come clean right here about visiting her. But I guess we wouldn't have a movie, so I get it. But come the hell on, Ray. You're only suspect because you make dumbass choices.
Hey, first of all, I don't mean to interrupt, but clearly you need to go back and watch 1980s era WWF because Cowboy Bob Orton wore a cast on his wrist his entire career, basically, and he used to hit people with it all the time. So, that's how.
Clear. That was
You were
clearly
that cast of the ring, brother. You disappointed all the Hulkamaniacs out there. Sorry.
We've referenced Cowboy Bob and Randy Orton on this episode.
And lost like 50% of viewers, listeners.
Nothing you can say.
All right. I don't even know where I'm at right now. Also, want to point out a little character moment between Barry and Helen when she's on the float. The way that they looked at each other, you can see a ton right there without any words being spoken. You see kind of like the loss, their relationship, like what could have been but wasn't. And again, like I think it's just tremendous acting between those two to really sell that moment without having to ever even say anything. Again, another great scene involving Helen, the strobe lights being on the stage and how they blind you, almost putting you in her eye line. I think it's great cinematography. I really liked that. But hold up, like I assumed that the pageant queen, like I assumed that there was an age limit, but clearly not because this lady singing terribly, by the way, is clearly in like her 50s at least. So obviously anyone can be the pageant queen there. In Bodega Bay. I don't even know what they call it in Africa, or even what the name of the town was. Anyway, I will also say that this is my least favorite kill. I think that not saying even that Barry was a jerk and he deserved to die worse, but like he's a main character, and you just come on, like you've got to show something more than they did to me. Unless you're trying to show or to create some sort of doubt that, oh, well, maybe he's the killer, but there was never any intention with that with Barry. So I think that was poorly done. I think that they should have shown him get killed or at least something better than what we got. Least favorite kill for me. And I know I've seen this multiple reviews saying this exact same thing, but I 100% noticed this as soon as it happened. But the whole kill with Helen being in the back of the cop car, exactly like Scream 2 kill, very noticeable. That it was probably recycled for Scream 2 by Williamson, and Sarah Michelle Gellar is in Scream 2. So another little tidbit there. But come on, like you're better than that. I don't think it was very good. Neither one of them, to be honest. But the line of the movie goes to Sarah Michelle Gellar to me when she says, "Look, you little shit stick Mayberry ass reject." Best line ever. And the cop kill was good, and this actually kind of leads into my probably favorite sequence of the whole movie here for the next group of scenes.
Yeah, so I like that we actually get some kills in these sets of scenes. I like the setup of the pageant and the parade and all of that stuff. I think that it kind of makes it very relatable, at least for somebody like me that's come from a small town. Like I think stuff like that kind of makes this set of scenes relatable. And I look, I don't love Barry's kill. I feel like if we were going to kill him, we should have just done it with the stupid car. But at least Barry's gone. Sorry, No offense, but at least he's out of here. I'm fine with that. You know, I'm sorry, but every time the girl in the pageant or the woman in the pageant gets up to sing, I laugh. I think it's hilarious. She's terrible, and it kind of adds a little levity to what's about to be a serious set of scenes. Obviously, um, look, this Barney Fife guy is a worse cop. You heard it here. He is a worse cop than Brother Dewey. Absolutely 1,000. This man did a quick flashlight check, didn't see anything when there is blood clearly dripping from the post. It's almost like the O.J. Simpson or the Nicole Simpson crime scene. It's very obvious there's this blood probably is here for because somebody got killed. Nope, Sarah Michelle Gellar just making it up, I guess. Whatever. But you know, I like the set of scenes. I like this set of scenes because it kind of is a come down, even though we have some gills. It's a come down for the last set of scenes that we're about to come up from. So I didn't take a ton of notes here for that reason, but there's some the end set of scenes I think does a lot of things so well, except for one big glaring, dumb, stupid thing that I can't stand. But outside of that, I really enjoy it. I didn't take a lot of notes here because again, we're about to get into a more note heavy set of scenes, so I tried to kind of just lay low and hit the high points. I like it. I think it's a good come down for what we're about to get.
Yeah, I've been early twice tonight in my portions. This is the set of scenes so I was referencing a moment ago when I said, I like how it's setting up for Ray being suspected and setting the drama there. And Barry coming in and punching him in the face, allegedly. I hate how everyone at this parade is dressed like the killer, like the fisherman. Like I get it, they're in a fishing town, but I just don't like that when they look around and they see everybody wearing the same thing, and then it leads to Barry tackling that geriatric guy and causing him to have a stroke. I mean, that poor guy looked like he was going through it when Barry was laying on top of him.
It's funny you say that, Dustin. Hey, it's funny you say that, Dustin, because everyone in my town is dressed like a fisherman too, except they're all wearing Columbias.
Yeah, see, different kind of fisherman. I get that. But yeah, and this is the second time where Barry's solution to making a mistake was to just ignore it instead of apologizing. He dumped the fisherman in the river or the lake earlier when he should just apologize and made it redder. And then he tackles this old guy and darn near killed him. Didn't apologize, just went on about his business. And then, we get fast forward a little bit. Why were so many people stopping her and holding on to her when she's trying to fight her way through the crowd, yelling about a murder? Like, I don't know about y'all, but if I were somewhere and someone's yelling, hey, that person behind you is being murdered, I wouldn't impede her line of walking. I wouldn't grab her. I wouldn't stop her. I might listen to her. I might try to stop what she's talking about. I had a huge problem with that. But thank God Barry's dead. No offense to... Yeah, actually, much offense. He deserved it. Worst character in the film. I felt relieved when he died. I do agree. I wish we got a more drawn out and elaborate death because I would have enjoyed it. The cop's death to me, not believable at all. Most cops in uniform, actually all cops in uniform are supposed to be wearing a bulletproof vest. I don't think a fish hook's going to tear through that and rip his guts out. So big inaccuracy there that I have a problem with. But overall, it's an okay set of scenes. It's better than the last. I don't have as many gripes with this set of scenes, I'll say.
And I'm glad you said that, and I meant to say it, but the cop is another character that I'm okay with being killed. He's an idiot and a jerk to Sarah Michelle Gellar's character it for almost no reason. Just okay, he's dead, cool with me. And I think the kill is actually kind of good because again, you actually get some blood, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah. And what I mentioned earlier, like Max had no reason to die. This cop did though, because he's going with her to investigate the murder. Like he's going with her to check it out, and he's a law enforcement. Like he could do something about it if he found out. So this death is justifiable. I just don't like the inaccuracy of how it went down.
Sheriff Dewey needs to move to Southport, North Carolina. Much better hire.
He's the gold standard for what a cop should be.
All right, I'll see y'all later.
Another gripe that I have is why the cop doesn't question why it's barricaded off either. Like, shouldn't a cop know why like a street is shut off? Like, that's just something that kind of bothered me a little bit. All right, here's the ending.
True.
Helen panics and the fisherman wipes the blood off the hook like he's Ghostface. Helen breaks out of the car and runs away. Julie is reading the article and realizes Susie Willis' father was a local fisherman, and she runs off from the computer. Helen makes it to the family store, banging on the door, crying for Elsa to hurry and open the door. She yells she's being attacked. She tells her to go lock the other door and she'll call the police. Elsa goes to the back and locks the door and turns around to the side of the fisherman. She doesn't move and just takes a hook swipe to the throat, I guess. He carries her away by the hook. I did like the visual of that. And Helen goes back downstairs and calls for her sister. The fisherman attacks Helen from underneath the plastic, posing as a mannequin. Super fast lunge tackle, I wrote. Helen runs off and sees her dead sister. She uses the store elevator to pulley herself upstairs. She makes it upstairs and she jumps out a window onto a pile of cardboard and other trash as he hacks at her. She wakes up in a daze and makes a run for it. And this bothers me so bad. She for some reason stops running towards the parade and is caught by the fisherman and is killed amongst a giant tower of tires. He hacks her over and over. Julie is at the parade and goes to find Ray on his boat. She says we didn't kill David Egan. She thinks it was Ben Willis. Ray thinks it's crazy and he tells her to come on the boat. She notices the boat's name is Billy Blue and assumes it's Ray, the killer. Ray chases her and says he can explain. Ray is clotheslined by a man. He tells Julie to get on the boat, hurry. Julie sees the fisherman hat and he unties the boat from the dock. Julie sees all their pictures in a room on the wall. She goes to run and the man asks, "You in trouble?" He reveals himself as Ben Willis, the man they ran over. She runs away and we see Ray finally get up. Julie realizes they're not on the dock anymore. She tries to run from the hook-wielding killer. She grabs a flare gun, but he revs the boat and she tosses it overboard. Ray jumps in a boat and chases after her. Julie goes into a lower level of the boat and Ray makes it on board. Ray and Ben fight now. Ray tries to attack with a gaff, but Ben gets the upper hand. Julie distracts Ray by calling his name and is knocked overboard. Ben chases after Julie again. Ray starts to climb back on board. Julie manages to escape the room and makes it to a room full of ice. Julie finds Helen and Barry's dead bodies in the ice. Ray swings a rope with a metal lever into Ben's face, and I wrote, which causes no damage somehow. Happy 4th of July, Julie, and his hand gets tangled in the ropes or whatever, and Ray lifts him into the pulley, cutting his hand off. He swings from the rope by his ankle and is thrown into the ocean. The cops show up. Julie tells Ray, "We never killed anyone." Ray reveals he visited Missy. "I love you, Julie. No one gets me like you do," he says. The cops ask any idea why this man wants you dead, and they quickly answer no. Only his hand with the hook is found in the nets. Another year later, Julie on the phone and jumps in the shower. Deb gives her mail, and it's a familiar-looking letter. When she opens it, it's just a party invite. She goes back to the showers, and through all the steam, she sees "I still know" written on the shower glass. And the film ends with the fisherman jumping through the glass at her, and one more scream from her. All right, Brian, what do you think of the ending?
I'll say that this is my favorite set of scenes in the movie because of the way that this kind of falls with our notes and our scene breakdown. It's like a 30-minute segment of here. You get that to start out with. You get that amazing sequence, I think, with, the typical slasher chase to the department store of Helen. Speaking of that, though, why the hell is the key lock part like of the deadbolt on the inside of the door? I mean, wouldn't that totally defeat the purpose like of that completely? She had to go get the keys to unlock it from the inside. I mean, I know that makes for more tension and all, but that does let him get closer and more in sight. But okay, whatever. Elsa gets a nice little death and better visual, honestly, with her being just drugged, and hanging on that hook. Pretty much, honestly, how she dies in House of Haunted Hill. Spoiler, especially like being drug around afterwards. I do think it's kind of funny how he pretty much just drug her for no reason because I mean, like usually the killer like props her up somewhere, but nah, he was just like took her to the bathroom and just was like, man, fuck it, here's a good spot right here by the toilet for her. But yeah, honestly, Helen's kill I thought wasn't that great, but just the fact that it shows like how close she was to getting away, I thought was pretty good shot, camera shot wise, and that was very almost very reminiscent of that whole trick or treat alley kill. And she puts up a fight too. That's my girl, SMG. I wish she would have survived for part two, honestly, would have made that movie a little bit better. Um, and I know we've seen it countless times with the killer hiding under the plastic, but I think that's a great visual, honestly, every time, no matter what movie it's in. Um, Again, I love the fake red herring. It's going to be the boyfriend, like Scream again, set up, and the real reveal. Because if it had been just like that whole formulaic type slasher movie that I was talking about that we're used to, it would have just, he would have been the killer. Muse so good here as Ben Willis, and well, he's just Ben Willis, no more slicker, just him. I think he did a great job just playing that psycho. That he talked about that a lot in our interview, so you really do need to go check that out. Um, Also, I'd like to point out pretty much how the cop wouldn't have died in the last set of scenes had Helen not been screaming and made him turn around and turn his back to the killer. Freddy, God damn it, Ray never goes overboard at all had Julie not screamed at him and took his attention away from the fight. So I don't know. Both of those I thought was stupid. Um, I did like Helen's body popping up in that ice, and the other one too. I guess that was Barry. I couldn't really tell honestly. Not sure why he kept those bodies, but not Elsa and the cop. But I don't know. Also, Ray is not very soaking wet for just coming out of the ocean either. I noticed that. A fun little continuity fact is that they actually messed up and had Julie wearing her sweater for most of this whole scene, and then just the underneath shirt for the rest of the scenes. And when they noticed it, they actually had to like scramble to find a solution. So the team like built a new set part, of the ship with this ice, and then filmed a short scene with Hewitt taking off her sweater and using it as leverage to open the stuck door. So anyway, that's why that's in there as to kind of help the continuity. All in all, I like the ending in the boat. Was his hand coming off realistic? Probably no, but it made a very cool visual to me anyway. I also like how they retconned the whole jumping out at her through the glass door at the end in the next one. It was something that I think was explained fine and still served as a good ending for it either way. Another fun fact, and last thing I'm going to say about the ending, the film originally had a different ending where Julie James is chatting with Ray online. She gets the pool party invitation, and then another person starts to chat with her, typing, "I still know." Then the killer jumps out on her. This ending was actually used as a teaser trailer for the sequel. But the fact that, it didn't close out with Summer Breeze again in the credits, terrible choice. Terrible choice. And you can bet your sweet ass that this episode is closing out with some type O motherfucking negative. Take it away, Mike.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine. Okay. Sorry, that's the Seals and Cross version. Okay. I think there's a lot of good here. I think the chase scene with Sarah Michelle Gellar is great. Minus one giant flub. Outside of that, and I'm going to talk about the good first. I think the lighting is good. The way the director shoots it is really good. Even the key thing, which I do agree with you, Brian, it is a little bit annoying. But even the key thing adds suspense. And so I'm willing to forgive it because I think it adds something to the scene. Obviously, I knew both were probably going to end up dead, but I do think that it helped. I think, you know, I think the chase in the alley is really good until she stops and looks behind her when there's daylight in front of her. And when you're a good running back, not a bad one, but when you're a good running back, you don't look behind you. You just run. You hit that hole, and that's it. And she had plenty of green grass in front of her, and she stops and looks behind her, and it's so stupid. And the first time I ever saw it, it's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Liv Tyler and the Strangers, same thing.
We harped on that too in our review. Where wait, what? As much as I love The Strangers, and I do, that is the one lone bad part of that movie to me. And so in that chase scene, it's the one bad part. I love the shot of her getting killed. I think it's a really cool. I'm guessing that's a crane shot. Don't really know, but the way they kind of do the overhead and how you see the parade still go on, but while she's getting killed, I think that's done really, really well. I don't like any of this Billy Blue stuff. I think it, and I know, and I think Brian touched on him liking it, and maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm stupid and I didn't understand it, but I think it kind of watered down the plot a little bit. I don't really necessarily think we needed another red herring with Ray. Like at this point, he's one of the only likable characters in the movie, and so I kind of feel like making him a red herring. Now, granted, I will say, if this movie would have had the balls to make it the boyfriend like Scream, that would have made me laugh, and I actually would have liked it for some sick, twisted sense of irony, because that's just how I am. Now, I've already said my piece about it should have been the boyfriend in Scream 2, because how meta would that have been to have it be the boyfriend again? But it doesn't quite work the same in this movie, obviously. I don't really like the Billy Blue stuff. I think it kind of waters down your plot a little bit. But that's just me. I do like her getting on the boat, her discovering the newspaper articles. So everything on the boat, even some of the unrealistic stuff, I really like. I love that it's a chase scene again. I think it's shot really well. The fact that they did this scene on a boat, on water, is cool as heck to me. I think that Muse Watson is fantastic here. He talked about getting in his headspace for this scene basically in our interview with him, and it's great. And he comes across, honestly, I almost wish he was this the whole movie, because the facials he uses in this scene is really good. It's scary. His eyes bug out a couple times. I think it's not over the top. It's played really well. And again, I like that we basically get I don't know. Here's another reference: a little Thunder in Paradise when Ray gets on the little John boat and has to storm across the water to a bigger boat. That's very Thunder in Paradise, brother. And again, sorry, there's a lot of references in this movie.
There's a lot,
but that's okay. We love that. So I'm not a big fan of the way that we get rid of Billy, though. It's a little too fanatical for me. The effects on him losing the hand look terrible. However, I know I should have said this early on. I love that the fish hook is the weapon of choice. I think that's awesome. And so when he loses it, I like it. I just think it doesn't look good. And it's a little unrealistic how he kind of gets hung up by the string, and Freddie Prinze, snatches it in time. He loses a hand. He goes overboard. That's a little unrealistic, but it's not something that drags the scene down for me. The very end, I'm conflicted on, because I do think it's good. I like that there are a couple of gangs that I'm kind of rooting for them. I like the fact that they technically didn't kill anybody, but we talked about that being a problem earlier in the movie, where I would have liked to have known that a little earlier, I think, so I could pull for these characters. But up to that point, I'm not pulling for those characters. So again, it's kind of something you can only know with some hindsight. But again, I like that they're a couple. I like that it's written, even though it's great penmanship on the wall there, or on the window with the "I still know." I think that's, heck, I guess because I write like a doctor, maybe that's only good penmanship to me. I'm not really sure. But I'm conflicted, though, because they completely ignore it in the sequel. And I know I'm not supposed to view it that way, but they address it very, very briefly as like a dream or whatever, and it just bugs me. Yeah. So again, I would have liked for them to keep that going a little bit more, but that's neither here nor there. I think this set of scenes is probably the best in the movie. And I know it has 2 chase scenes, but I think the way they're shot and the suspense and the music and everything else, I think it's really well done. So a good way to end the film that I thought was a mixed bag up to this point.
Yeah, so this set of scenes, my first question is, what time of day is this happening? because we go from Helen, running over to the family store and Elsa still being in there. My question is, why is Elsa still there looking like she's closing down shop if every other place around looks like they've been closed for hours and there's no one else around that could be witnesses or, anything? It's like, it looks like this is happening at 1 a.m., but just Elsa just happens to be at the store.
She must have gotten
so
frozen there.
Oh my God.
I like it.
See y'all next week.
Julie on the boat is the most frustrating part of this entire movie. She makes every dumb decision possible. It's like she's being controlled like it's Cabin in the Woods. Like, how she got on the boat's questionable, as is. I get it. She thought that Ray was the killer. So this guy just knocked Ray out. And if he says, do this, he's looking out for me. But she spent way too much time in that room looking at the walls, all the pictures and everything. She knew what was going on. She should have ran right back out the door and jumped overboard. And another thing, why didn't she just jump off the boat? She had every opportunity to jump off the boat when they weren't really moving that fast. Yeah, she could have become injured or anything, something like that. But I think that's significantly increased her chances of surviving compared to, I don't know, going downstairs into the bottom of the ship and leaving, when he knows there's other entrances, but I'm still going to go down here. And she just kept taking all these other doors, staying inside the boat. And what she needed to do was get in the water. Her best chance of survival was getting in the water. Thank God for Ray and his. Go ahead.
I was going to say that actually would have been a really cool visual of him like throwing a net and catching her ass in the water or something and pulling her back up. I think
that would have been
cool.
funny. That would have been funny. Speaking of net, shout out to Ray and his superhuman strength to be able to not only hold on to that net as he's being dragged through the water, but then have the strength and the endurance after all that to climb up the net and get on top. Like, come on, man. Okay.
And not even be wet that much.
Yeah. He just got out of the water and he's just a little damp.
Is that how superheroes
moist,
work?
if you will.
I'm unfamiliar.
Aquaman. I laughed when Ray released that hook and it nailed Fisherman in the face. I don't know why, but just hard impact with objects like that to the face just always make me laugh. And just he went down like a sack of potatoes. I enjoyed that. I thought that was hilarious. He did wake up a little bit too cognitively sharp, though, for my liking. He just got knocked out with a hook and he just opened his eyes and sat up like he's the Undertaker. Didn't like that. That didn't work for me. I did like the ending though. Like after this set of scenes, now I do like the cop asking them, "Do you have any reason to believe this guy would want to hurt you?" And they're like, "No." That was funny. But I do like the ending scene. Like she's back off to college. She's happy. She's in love. She's talking to Ray on the phone. She uses the word ravage, which is funny to me. And I like the tension that they build with. She walks out and she sees that she's got another letter, and the handwriting looks similar to the letter that she received at home. Like if it hadn't looked like it looked, it wouldn't have been a special. And so there was a huge amount of tension in that 10 seconds it took her to see the letter and then open it up to see it's just a sorority party. And then I do love the fact she goes back into the shower and she sees I Still Know on the shower. The only thing that I would change about this ending is the jump scare. Like I would have really preferred it if she just sees I Still Know written in the fog, but nothing ever comes of it. And so you wouldn't have had to explain it as a dream in the sequel. You just say, that happened and she's spooked until we get the sequel. The whole time she's been freaked out. But that's neither here nor there. Solid ending. It's just Julie really almost killed it for me though with her dumb decisions and her screaming made me want to mute the television. Like she has some god awful pipes on her. Like it's just the sound of her scream made me envy deaf people for a minute, but overall not a bad ending.
Hey, you talked about her jumping off the boat. You talked about her jumping off the boat. Rose DeWitt Bukater stayed on the Titanic as it was going down, but tried to jump off of it while it was still afloat. So, people make dumb decisions sometimes.
That's true. She also
Wow.
killed Jack, but here we are.
All right, y'all got any more final thoughts on the ending
So
before we
she's
jump
a
into a fan
murderer.
question? All right, we only got one question this week. It's from Michelle on Facebook. She says, "I have always enjoyed this movie. Do you guys consider this movie a slasher or just a horror movie?" Does anybody want to go first?
I I consider it both. I think it's a kind of the same
Yeah.
genre there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you can be a horror without being a slasher, but you can't be a slasher
yeah.
without being a horror. Kind of like all squares or all rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles or whatever that
agree.
is.
Yeah,
there you go.
So yeah, it is definitely both, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's jump into our fun facts real quick. I've only got a few of them. These are all from IMDb. I think Brian's already talked about this. I think Kevin Williamson wrote this script before Scream 1996, but was unable to sell it. Following the big screen success of his next screenplay, Scream, Columbia Pictures immediately bought I Know You Did Last Summer in 1997. The ice inside the storage of the boat was actually made of gelatin, so Jennifer Love Hewitt could comfortably move around inside. That was awfully sweet. And this is another one I got because I really like this movie, and he actually interacts with us on Twitter sometimes. Director Jamie Blanks originally put together a trailer as an audition to direct, but it came in a week too late and he lost the job. However, producer Neil Moritz remembered Blanks and later hired him to direct Urban Legend 1998, which I will be picking down the road. Anybody else got fun facts? They can go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a few, and actually that's pretty funny because my exact quote goes was that, and I said a movie I know Nico will be picking very soon. I'm sure that was exactly what I wrote to.
My man.
Reese Witherspoon actually auditioned for a role and decided against signing on, but Gillespie still asked for her advice on casting, and she offered up her then boyfriend Ryan Felipe. Her, Ryan, and Sarah Michelle Gellar would then immediately start production on Cruel Intentions right after this. During production, Geller and Felipe decided to take a rental car out for a spin one night on set and got stuck on a North Carolina beach in a sand dune. They said later in interviews that they feared getting fired, but the secret never got out and the production never found out. Also, the sequel, I like it. I'll actually pick it later on. But the third one, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, went straight to video, has none of the original cast, and currently has a 0% Rotten Tomatoes score. Lastly, Sarah Michelle Gellar auditioned for the role of Julie, and actually vice versa. That would have been interesting to see it flipped. Danielle Harris and Melissa Joan Hart were also considered for Julie. In fact, Clarissa herself, Melissa Joan Hart, actually was offered the job and turned it down. Jennifer Love Hewitt has a connection with Neve Campbell as they were both in Party of Five.
I've just got a couple. We mentioned, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar. They went on to be married in 2002, and they're still married to this day, which is an incredible feat. For Hollywood couples to be married that long, that's admirable. It's awesome that they met on this film and developed a friendship, which later turned into a romance. The original trailer for this movie described Kevin Williamson in the movie as from the creators of Scream. Miramax, the owners of the Scream franchise, actually successfully sued Columbia Pictures for false advertising, and the phrase was removed. And this one, there's only a couple of film critics that their names carry weight. Roger Ebert is certainly one of them. This film was actually included on his most hated list.
Yeah, fuck Roger Ebert too.
Hey, I have mixed feelings on Roger Ebert, but maybe one day we'll do a bonus about him or something. But anyway, I named all the fun facts I did have. So this budget was $17 million. It looks like it returned $125,586 and some change. So made its money back, made enough to get a sequel that Brian likes, and I think is scum between my toes.
Well, I'm picking it and I like it. So fuck you too, Mike.
The third one is even worse. One of the worst pieces of garbage I've ever seen is the third one. Oh,
All
you
right.
can pick the second one, and I'm just going to quote School Rock the whole time because Jack Black's in it. I'm just going to go because that's Jack Black, brother.
Okay, I'm down.
All right. Let's jump into our rating and favorite kill and least favorite kill. Does anybody who wants to go first tonight?
I don't
I'll go
care. I'm
first.
gonna be the setter of the bell curve. So anybody,
All
go
right,
ahead.
go second.
I'll go.
Yeah,
I'll go
ahead.
first. My favorite kill. I think we all picked it. I chose Max. I liked Elsa's kill too. Not her kill, but the watching him drag her. I kind of like that. I chose Max though. Love the hook through the bottom of the chin and drag across the boiler, the table, whatever the hell that was. Least favorite. I chose Helen. I've always hated how she stops with safety right in front of her. It's like, God, just keep running. What's wrong with you? The rating. I've already kind of said a lot of this. Got to be honest. Like this movie a lot more for the rewatches and the note taking. I thought the characters of this movie have great chemistry and are likable, like just in real life. But I didn't think they were that great acting wise. The kills were pretty lackluster for the most part. And like I said earlier, I didn't like the scene with Max in the trunk with all the crabs and they're all gone. Didn't like the jump scares. And another thing that kind of bothered me was when Julie finally learns of Ben. I wrote, like, read the whole article. What's wrong with you? Like, you just read a piece of it and just ran with it. The ending on the boat was a little too long. And I wrote, but in the end, I wrote, friend of the show, Muse Watson was great as Ben Willis. And I wrote, he might have been the best actor to me. I really thought that, oh God, Missy, like Dustin said, Missy was great as well. Overall, decently fun watch, but it's not great to me. I gave it a 5 1/4. Sorry, Brian. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings.
All right, I'll go real quick. So again, I said my favorite kill. It was Max. My least favorite kill is Helen because again, what an idiot. Jesus Christ. Okay, I kind of said my thoughts on it. I think I enjoyed it more before this last couple rewatches. But there were still some things I really liked, and it's a very familiar cast of characters. We've seen all these people in other things, so you're immediately drawn to the movie right there. As far as watching it, however many years later, I think that's fun. But there's so many. The plot kind of drags for me. I think they kind of water it down with certain stuff. Dialogue is an issue. It's a little bit of a stock slasher movie, which I enjoy, but I don't think they do any. They don't do anything to reinvent the wheel. And I think sometimes if I watch a slasher, I need something different. And I don't think you get a ton of different with this movie. Still enjoyable. I gave it a 6.5. I think it's. And by the way, that's not a knock. I probably would have given it a 7.5 had we done it probably 2 months ago or something. And I didn't, watch it 3 times and take notes and and stuff like that. But I got to go 6.5. But I think it's still really enjoyable and rewatchable as well.
I'll go ahead and knock mine out real quick. I thought this movie, like I said, I had a higher opinion of it before I rewatched it this time. The motive of the killer was kind of all over the place. Like I said, he's killing some people that don't even deserve to die, have no reason to be killed. And then he's toying with the ones that need to be killed, lets some of them live when they should have died. J Love on the boat almost killed, it almost killed the movie for me. But it's an enjoyable film despite all that. I think because the cast is so great and some of the acting performances are so great. So overall, I don't hate it. I don't love it. As far as my favorite kill, let me see. I went with Max despite my hatred for him dying in general. Just the kill itself was cool. The hook through the bottom of the chin and being dragged. Least favorite kill was the officer Caparizzo or whatever his name was, just because, like I said, the impracticality of a cop being slashed through his gut when he's supposed to be wearing a bulletproof vest. Didn't like the inconsistency there. As far as my rating, I went with the 5.5.
Yeah. So I already said my favorite kill was Max, and I think I've said my least favorite kill too is Barry. I think my thoughts on this are summed up, I think, perfectly with this quote from director Gillespie. He said, quote, that he felt Williamson's screenplay did not resemble a slasher horror movie and that he saw it rather as simply a really good story with a morality tale embedded within it. I think that, coupled with my nostalgia for this film, is obviously why I'm undoubtedly the highest ranking on this film, and I gave it an 8.
Ooh, bell curve.
So
Whole class just got a B.
Y'all are welcome.
that gives us a composite score. I can't. I'm fat fingering the keyboard, the calculator. Hang on.
IMDb is 5.7.
Sorry
Whenever you get yours up, Dustin.
to all our listeners that thought Dustin just did that in his head.
We're 6.3125.
Oh, boom! IMDb, what's up?
All right, I really had a good time reviewing this movie. Honestly, rewatching it, it was a good watch. Yeah, y'all got any more final thoughts before Mike announces his pick for next week? Mike's got a good pick for next week.
I also enjoyed watching this movie again. I enjoyed reviewing it with you guys. I think it's a very rewatchable film. It's just always I just have a problem with some of the plot stuff. But again, so yeah, my pick. We did a free range pick this month where we could pick whatever we want. So I kind of went back to something I did before we had themes, and that was pick big movies that it's just time to review them, whether I like them or don't like them. Let's talk about them objectively. So I picked The Ring, the original. Well, not the original Ringu from Japan, but the American version of The Ring.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. And if anybody who's listening, you want to watch it, it's free on Amazon Prime right now. So take advantage of this, or you're gonna be charged $4.27 pretty soon. Thank you for all the support, listeners. It's awesome. We actually just dropped some news that I think we were ranked the 27th. Got out of 60 of horror podcasts to check out. So we're moving on up like the Jeffersons. That's awesome. We really appreciate support, and we'll be back next week with The Ring. 7 days. Just want to remind everybody